Hi, and welcome to this short overview of the new MoneyBrilliant tax deduction features. We hope that by using these, you never forget to claim an allowable tax deduction again. You will find the tax deduction feature on the Manage My Spending dashboard. The first time you use it, you'll have to configure it so that it can find expenses that are relevant to you. To start that configuration, just tap on the dashboard, and you'll be presented with the tax deduction setup screen. Here you can set your occupation, or if you've already provided your occupation details when you set up your MoneyBrilliant account, you can simply confirm those. We will automatically look across all your transaction data to figure out what tax years you have data for. But you can also select which tax years you want us to identify transactions for. So if you've already lodged a tax return, you probably don't want us to suggest transactions for that year, so simply deselect it. Most of the time, we'd expect you to have at least 2 years open, the current year and the previous year, and the app will let you manage deductions for both those years. Next, you configure the kinds of expenses that you are likely to incur for work. These tend to be fairly generic across industries and occupations, and you just turn on the ones that you're interested in and turn off the ones that you aren't interested in. If you want some more information about the expense, simply tap on the info icon and we'll give you a brief summary of the expense type, some of the things to think about, and also give you a link direct to the most appropriate page on the ATO website for more guidance. After you complete the setup, you'll get a warning just to make sure that it's clear that we aren't providing you with tax advice or tax agent services, and that if you need tax advice or the services of a tax agent, you should engage one. Back on the Manage My Spending dashboard now, we can see that we have no confirmed tax deductions for the current year, but there are $96 in transactions that look like they might be tax deductible for us to review. And then for last year, the 2016-17 year, we also have no confirmed tax deductions and a bunch of expenses totaling $20,337 for us to review. To review the expenses that might be tax deductible, we simply tap on the dashboard and we're presented with a list of transactions that we can work through. By selecting the first one, we can see the details of the transaction and confirm whether it's tax deductible or not. If we confirm it is tax deductible, we get some additional information including which deduction group we think it might belong to, an option to set what proportion of the expense is tax deductible, and the calculated value of the deduction. We can change the tax group that the deduction is assigned to, if we like, to any of the deduction groups in a personal tax return. You can also access information about each deduction group and rules about things like record keeping straight from the ATO website. Sometimes an expense will be both work-related and private in nature, and you'll need to apportion the expense. You can do that by changing the tax-deductible percentage amount, and you can also get some guidance on why do this and how to do it. For many expenses, you will need to keep some kind of records to substantiate your tax deductions. You can do this several ways within the app. The first is by attaching notes to the transaction. You can also attach an image to a tax-deductible transaction. You can take a photo of a receipt or attach an existing image from your photo library. Being able to attach an existing photo is important because often you'll have the receipt before you update the transaction in MoneyBrilliant. So I'm trying to get into the habit of taking photos of all of my receipts when I first receive them, and then attaching those images to the transactions in MoneyBrilliant. And for me, that should mean no more lost receipts. Back at the deduction screen, I can now simply tap to store all the details. Now I have one more transaction to review. I'll just quickly go through that process again. Now I've reviewed all of my transactions and I'm up to date. Importantly, it's also possible to mark any transaction in MoneyBrilliant as being tax deductible, not just the ones that we identify for you. To demonstrate this, I've gone to the accounts screen and I can see my bank accounts and credit cards. I can select one of my accounts to see the transactions in that account and then select a transaction that I want to flag as being tax deductible. At the bottom of the transaction details screen, I have a new tax option. If I select that option, I'm back at a familiar looking tax deduction details screen where I can mark the transaction as being tax deductible. Now in this case, because the transaction hasn't been flagged as being tax deductible, you'll have to select a tax deduction group based on the type of transaction. In this case, we're going to say it's a D5 other work-related expense. And we're going to leave the tax deductible percentage and the other details as they are. As we've done before, in practice we might want to add some notes and an image of the receipt, but for now we'll just save the details of this transaction. Back at the dashboard screen, I can see I now have $96 in confirmed tax deductions for the current year, no transactions to review for the current year, and still some work to do for the previous year. The beauty of managing your deductions this way is you can do it progressively during the year so that when you come to tax time next year, your work's largely done. If I want to check in at any point and see a summary of my deductions for a year, I simply tap on the year from the dashboard and see a complete summary by deduction group for that year. If I want to see more detail, I can tap on the deduction group and see the transactions confirmed as tax deductible within each group. And if I need to, I can go back and edit my settings at any point, close off a tax year after I've lodged my return for that year, which will mean I won't get any more suggestions about tax deductions for that year, and also download a summary of my tax deductions for a year so that I can send it to my accountant or my financial advisor. And that's it, an overview of the new MoneyBrilliant tax deduction features. We hope you enjoy them.
Don't just be good with money, be money brilliant.